Hello everyone. This presentation is called Life Now and Forever, and it is focusing on life and everything about life and a lot of stuff that I think has been forgotten. Let's get started. I remember coming here. So for me, this place never felt like I was born here and I live here and then I die here. This always felt like a mission. And because I remember, I never lost sight of that memory. And this, I know many people feel very strange and fascinating. For me, it feels like the most normal of things. I can't even imagine actually how it would be to not remember. And that was one of the things that actually puzzled me when I came here. I couldn't believe that no one remembered where they were from or what they were doing here. So when I came here, I was presented to Earth. I could see the planet, and they explained to me that some great transition was about to take place. So the population on this planet would experience a great transformation, and they were calling out a lot of helpers to be part of it and to help out during the process. And this was quite an event. I was calling a popcorn event. Everyone up there is watching. And that is because it's really unusual, because normally you would just live out your life sort of in a normal fashion, but now it will be like you're waking up while you're still living. It would be like a science fiction event almost. So the question was simple. Would you like to come down and help humanity through their transition? And I got a sense impression of what that would mean, which means I of course don't see all the physical details because it's not translated when you are up there. You don't see things, you don't view things the same way as you view them when you're here. So the way I was presented it, I could feel what it would mean for the people down there to go through this. I would feel how it would be once all this took place and how it will feel afterwards and what it all entailed. So I said, yes, I want to go there. And this is nothing unusual because I love to jump down on missions like this. So I had many previous missions behind me and this was just another mission. So I said yes, I wanted to help out. And this is interesting because what happens when you say that, no, you never land physically on a planet. You don't do that. That they only do in movies. What happens is that you go down to a particular dimension. So once you make such a decision, it's almost like you get a blackout. You can't fully be conscious. And you kind of experience waking up where you decided to go. Like you would wake up in a dream. So I woke up here, so to speak. Or I actually I traveled quite many times to get used to the body and all of this. I noticed that no one could actually hear me communicate with them or anything when I was in this small body. So it felt pretty stupid, I was going to say, to just hang around in the body in the same sense. But I was a lot of ways still traveling up there, kind of landing in the body and then trying to accustomize to this body. And I know that even if most people will say that they don't remember where they are from, they just have maybe a hunch, but they don't remember, I still really believe that many people recognize feeling like they're trapped once they're here. Kids, they try to fly, they try to go to other places, they try to do magic, all of these things, because it's not magic, it's actually normal, it's very natural. And what isn't natural is being stuck here. And I really reacted to all the limitations when I came down here. And as I said, I'm quite sure all of you did. And I tried to get a grip of what this mission really entailed because I knew I would help out, but I didn't know quite exactly the details of that yet. So quite early I asked, okay, so where are my resources? Because I could sense like I want to get started, like where are my resources? And they said, you won't have any. Like I said, what? You can't have your tools, you can't do your normal stuff. And I started to feel this very common feeling down here of despair. Because then I asked, where is my team? Like, where is everybody? And it's not, they're spread out all over this place. And I said, what? They're spread out all over this place. They're like spread out in all of the countries in this world. And at the end of the cycle, and I will come to that, at the end of the cycle, you will start getting together. You will meet up and you will join forces and you will do this. I was like, great. So right now I am alone. And what exactly is the purpose of this mission? And I was quite like ready to fight the bad guys and do stuff like that. And they said, well, you see, humans. And I got the perception I saw a human. I thought it was a monster. Hear me out, it was like a big blur was coming towards me, and I really believed it was something bad that we obviously had to save humanity from. And they said, no, you don't understand. That is your brothers and sisters. That's the state they're in. And I said, no way. They said, you have to look deeper. Like, you have to look really deep. And okay, I recognized the soul behind this, but what happened? They disconnected from themselves. And I said, what does that even mean? That means they will have no idea who they are. They will not know where they are from, why they are here, what they are supposed to be doing here. They don't know. And I said, that can't be right. And I was then in a period, I don't know, I was 5, 6. That was about the age when the physical brain seemed enough like fit to take in all this information, and when I get mostly briefed. And I asked people, I literally asked them like, where are you from? Do you know? And they didn't know. So they were actually quite right. And I was shocked about this, because usually if you come down to a place to help, you're kind of like greeted. Like, hello, thank you for coming here. There was no such welcome committee. Like, you couldn't even say who you are. But luckily, I didn't care. I was used to a lot of crazy stuff, so I didn't mind. I could recognize my parents. I knew my mother from previous missions, and it was very cool in the sense because she was always well connected as well, so she could kind of get where I was coming from. But I could see her and what she'd done before. I could see what was going to happen in this lifetime, and all of that came true. And I could see my father and why he was here, and my brother. So I just said it very straight, because I kind of quickly got the idea that everyone here was acting very weird. And I just said that, just so you know, you're not my parents in a sense. You're very good friends to me, but not my parents, because that would be weird. As soon as I got their impression of what parents were and how everything was supposed to function. Because there are a lot of things that doesn't quite work as they should down here, are they? Like authority, for example. There are no authority in any other place. Like if you look out in the nature, there's no tree dominating a bush or something like that. There are no hierarchies. And actually you are committing like sort of a crime if you are trying to make your will over another person and believe you have the right to do so. And if the other person believe they should follow you, they're also kind of doing something not so good. So all this was of course strange, and relationships here were strange. But that shouldn't come as a surprise, because everyone here was lost. And when I kind of got a grip of everything that people portrayed as a crisis, like there were wars, there were hunger, there were famines. And I said, okay, so are we supposed to help humanity with fixing these things? I asked. And they said, no, because these are problems that are arisen from them being disconnected from themselves. It's because they are disconnected that they are recreating this stuff towards each other. So if we help them connect back to themselves, they will start creating a really nice place. So that was the mission. So, dare to do what's good for you. It may feel extremely difficult to live in a society where everything is controlled and where it seems difficult to just shake yourself free and walk away from it. Many people eat pills and just survive. Others accept the rules of the game and try to seek personal benefits in it. That often happens at the benefit of another. Those who won't accept the system becomes outcasts and are left with nothing that the system provides. But that we are not feeling well is a sign that something is wrong. Begin taking back your natural life. You are unhappy because you are bound to things that are not good and right for you. It's that simple. And we kind of know it. We can't thrive in a world that is crazy and completely goes against everything that life that is life. And there are many good stories and sagas that survive to tell the tale about what humans here are working themselves through. For example, the tale of the dragon that guards the great treasure. And what is that all about? Because we know that you have to be a pure soul that has to enter the cage. And if you're a pure soul, then the dragon won't wake up and consume you. But if you come in there and you're tempted by the treasures, the dragon is guarding the treasure, it will wake up and it will consume you, devour you. What is this about? This represents your ego, like that is represented in all your sagas. The dragon is like your inner desire nature. And if you are awakening your own desires, represented by you taking the treasure, if you do that, you will be consumed by yourself, by your own desires, and that's why you fail. But if your desire nature is not awoken, there's nothing that can harm you, because you can only harm yourself. Remember what I said, you have to attack first. You go free. That's what the saga is trying to tell you. That's what makes it so great. So you only meet externally what exists internally. So that's one example of a saga. I will soon continue with another one. And what I also want to say about Your Life is an Adventure is, what are the kind of movies that you're always watching? I'm actually gonna go return to that previous slide again. You watch adventure movies. An adventure movie, who is the main character in an adventure movie? A lot of people are gonna say the hero, but the hero wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the bad guy. The hero would be just a plain villager eating raw potatoes in his village. He wouldn't do anything, and all the classic adventure stories starts the same. The hero is not doing anything, he's not accomplished, he's not brave, he's not nothing. Then this thing happens, and he faces one challenge after another, and every time he overcomes a small challenge, he becomes better. Not just a better sword fighter, he becomes a better person. And we watch these movies and we cheer him on. We want him to face obstacles. Not one guy with a sword, hundreds of people with a sword, and we're gonna watch him defeat it all and overcome everything. That's what makes us feel good. And some people say that we like to watch things that we can identify ourselves with. We're not watching a movie about someone having a spa treatment or a massage. We're not watching someone become completely safe and writing the right insurances. We don't like those movies. That would kind of be very depressing, wouldn't it? We want these kind of movies. That tells us something about who we are, don't it? So let me give the example of another very popular saga, namely Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings is another great example where some people think, yeah, that's a typical battle between good and evil. And once again, they see this Star Wars scene where you have a great army of the good forces versus the evil forces. But the Lord of the Rings reveals that it's not what life is all about. Because that story actually revolves around Frodo, who has the mission to carry this ring and to destroy it. And on all these pictures you see his fascination or his focus on this ring. And this whole big drama is about that ring. Even though all characters say that I can't take this ring because it will corrupt me, we see it in the elfen queen when Galadriel, when she receives the ring and she says, I could be the greatest ruler. And then she kind of says, but I passed the test and I would remain Galadriel. So what is all of this about? This ring represents our ego, our big shadow, our greatest blockage. Because there's one small detail also I didn't mention in that adventure movie. We follow the hero and he defeats one obstacle after another, and he always becomes a greater person. And in the end, he meets the great villain, like the cause behind all of his obstacles. And when he defeats that villain, everything is over, and he lives happily ever after. And that means once you defeat your greatest obstacles, all of this is over, and you continue to the immortal state. And there is no time there, hence live happily ever after, until you decide to go down in another one of these adventures. And this ring is all about your shadow and defeating it. And the only thing who can stop you from not being devoured by the great dragon is to not have any desires. Galadriel remains an immortal elf because she passes the test. She is not tempted to take the ring, so she doesn't descend down to this place and becomes a mortal. And we also see Frodo's struggle with this ring at the end. Because even if we see the good forces battling the evil forces, they can't win over the evil forces. It's only when Frodo destroys the ring that the evil forces collapses. And what I'm trying to also show with that is that you can't fight a battle on the outside, and that's not how you're going to win this. That's not how you're going to defeat what is happening to you, because what's happening to you is coming from within. You have to basically be able to destroy that ring. And what is that ring? That ring promises you the power of all of this. And I'm going to ask you right now, how many of you would take the ring? It's a simple question, really. Like, if you were offered a ring, and with that ring, you could have the greatest army in the world. So anyone that you're pissed off at, like World Economic Forum, Bill Gates, whatever, what's controlling and suppressing you, you could destroy all of them in a blink of an eye. It would really solve all of your problems, because you can take all the great castles and everything yourself. Would you take the ring? Or would you destroy it with everything it entails? So that is what this story is about. And the story is named after Saturn, the Lord of the Rings. It's another name for Saturn. And Sauron is depicted as the eye of Saturn, as Saturn itself. And many claim that Satanists are actually, what is it called? Obeying Saturn, praying to Saturn as their great god. And it's actually called Lord of the Rings. So Sauron is Saturn. And what does that mean? He created the ring who will rule everyone. What does that mean? Another picture of Saturn depicted as a black cube and the Dark Lord himself. So you see, it's often depicted with the greatest evil of them all, Saturn. Well, in Greek mythology, Saturn was also called Father Time, master of time and space. And for you who follow astrology, you know that Saturn indicates where you have limitations, personal limitations in your life. And congrats, that is what Saturn represents. It represents limitation. And if you think about it, if you would forge a ring that would control everyone, this ring is very weak unless you are not governed by your own personal desires. This ring has no power. It only takes those who wants to have it. And if you want to have it, go ahead, explore your desires to the very end of it, for all I know. But it's not a way to freedom, it's a way to enslavement. And the only opposition you meet, the only one who's pushing up on the other side, is yourself. So, the opposite to Saturn is Jupiter. It shows where you have your great expansion. And there you go, we have life again. Development by friction to overcome obstacles, resistance. So, if you want to develop in your life, just go where the resistance is, because when you overcome it, you expand. So reality is not a battle between good and evil. Life lovingly carries you to self-realization. What you realize is yourself. And what prevents you from yourself are your inner blockages, doubts that are manifested in the outside world as challenges. So, back at Frodo and Lord of the Rings again, his personal limitations. And have you noticed how Gollum in the story appears the same time as he says, I will take this ring and I will throw it away, I will destroy it. Because then your inner resistance really protests and everything gets very difficult. As soon as you decide to do something good, you meet all the blockages, remember, that is preventing you from reaching that, and they come up and they hit you full on. And Gollum is depicted as a very ugly character. He was once a hobbit, just like Frodo, a beautiful hobbit. But his own desire consumed him, and this is what he looks like. And that is kind of what your ego looks like a hideous creature, and that needs to get up in the open. And so he battles with this in order to free himself. And therefore the fight is so difficult, because you're fighting your own resistance. Will you overcome your limitations, or will your limitations overcome you? So in Frodo's world there is no one else except Frodo, really. He holds the power. It is only about his desires and his world as he perceives it. If he can't get rid of his desires, the bad stuff will win. It will devour everything, so to speak. There is no evil living happily ever after. So everything is about you. And if you can let go of this desire and master them, or if you can't. And then some people say, well, hey, wait a minute, what is desires? What is desires? What do you mean, sexual desires? No, desires is every instance when you are prepared to do something without the consideration of anyone else. And it's usually an idea you get when you think that you are the shard of glass and you only want to get forward yourself. There you resonate like a shard of glass. There you become selfish. That is desire. The limitations exist within us. You have held yourself back. Some people wake up from their limitations. Others get consumed by them. And here I show the picture of the eye. I usually start with the eye because you think it's such a great symbol. Because being awake means that you watch, you look. You watch over your thoughts, over your actions, so you become self-conscious, so you decide. And I know that many people have seen eye as the eye that controls you. What? What are you choosing to see? It's your eyes. What are you looking at? Is it something that controls you? Or is it your limited view that controls your reality? What is it that you see? Because that decides your life and your reality. If you are a victim and you are here, or if you are obeying authority, whatever, you are creating your own reality and your own nightmare. So how about looking at things differently? Because you decide. But the ego and everything else that sabotages me, because it's such a popular topic, the ego. But as I said, the ego is not evil, the soul is not evil. There is no evil. So it's only you. Another way of explaining it is that you're in your state of harmony, and there is no time, there is not really any decisions, because you're not thinking about anything. I mean, there's not a problem because you are knowing, you are in harmony state. So you're awake, alive, you are one world or oneness, as you wish to call it. Then your higher self says it's time for you to develop, and off we go. And you are thrown into what you don't know yet, the state of chaos you end up in, where there is unconsciousness, darkness, ignorance, separation. I sometimes make the example that you go into a dark room because you can't see in the room yet. When you can see, you switch on the light and you see everything, but you can't see it, and you bump into things, and so you have the lamp that is attacking you, and you're stumbling, and things are hurting you because you don't see anything. And when you enter such a state, you have an ego. The ego only exists in duality, where learning takes place by choices. So there's your discernment tool. It what makes you aware and capable of having a choice. But the ego does not make decisions for you. It lets you know what you feel about something. It makes it possible for you to think. In the end, you decide what to do with it all. So I don't want to confuse you. I sometimes use this word for ego, the functional thing that makes it possible for you to be self-aware. And we actually carry it through with in the third principle about being self-aware, where we all make decisions and we learn together. And it's only about us and our choices, and that we can make those choices. That's separate from when we are in a oneness state, when there is no choice, when you are just a being, to come to the third and be self-aware. But sometimes I also call it ego because it's such a popular, when I call it the state of mind you are in when you believe you are the shattered piece of glass. So I'm going to try to not confuse them too much. In this circumstance, I call it like the function you have of being self-aware. We can do bad, evil things because we act unconscious. So many times when people claim evil, I claim lack of knowledge. There is no evil, just lack of balance or lack of knowledge. I mean, you wouldn't do bad things for the sake of doing bad things. You actually believe you are doing good things. Like, I don't know how many lifetimes I can reflect back on. I don't know if the many lifetimes. I don't need many lifetimes to experience this great phenomena where I'm battling a group that I call enemies. And in the next life, I am that group and I call my group the enemies. And I've had many lives that surely people would call me the bad guy. But I wouldn't call myself the bad guy. And I can guarantee you guys that you never had a lifetime where you called yourself evil or a bad guy. Unless you were in a dark place and just said, oh, I'm bad, I'm evil. But you wouldn't consider yourself an enemy. You would consider, no, I fought together with my group here. I saved my peers and everything like that. You don't see yourself as bad. That's the end of it. No one considers himself evil. Everyone is trying to live, and we haven't learned how to live in harmony with ourselves yet. Once we learn, darkness disappears. Here is a fire. You can misuse it and set a house and home on fire, or you can grill marshmallows. Our problem is that we don't take responsibility for our own actions. In reality, we have much more power over our circumstances than we claim we do. So many people say, I can't do this, and they are lying. Sometimes I say that, I don't want to go to this celebration party for something, but I have to do it. Stop, wait a minute, why you have to do it exactly? And then when they figure it out, it says, oh, so you're prioritizing that because you obviously care what that group thinks about you in those and those circumstances. So this is your priority. So you mean this is what you want to do right now. And then some people protest and say, no, I don't want to do it. Write down exactly what you are prioritizing and why you're doing what you're doing, because you choose every action. You don't have to do anything unless you have a choice, unless you have a reason for what you're doing, And then start to figuring out that you decide over everything. So start recognizing that you do decide over everything. I mean, you have to a large degree formed your current life situation. I mean, how you look, I mean, where you live, what you work with, who you hang out with, and you're not even realizing it. Like, you are the creator of everything. The law of free will. The principle of 1, 2, and 3. The first principle, God, unity, everything, where we are oneness. The second principle is called the feminine principle. It's what reflects everything. And if you watch the original relationship, you're gonna hear me describing that. The woman represents the second principle, which is reflecting God. And the man, the masculine, is that which acts consciously, namely you. And you are all participating in this. You can't be outside of it. If you are born into this world as a woman, you are going to represent that which reflects reality as being a woman. And if you are born as a man, you're going to be that which reflects, that which are conscious and sees to the woman. And I often translate this to that men in the world do what they do because of women. So when women say, I don't have any power, it's like, that is not true. If women tomorrow said, look, we are attracted to guys with tractors. They are so hot. Tomorrow, this would be another world. Full of tractors. No practical reason, but that is what girls dig, guys do. Or if women suddenly said, we don't want money. That is so lame. Hate guys with money. No. I like guys who tend to flowers. Would be a complete different world. Probably not even be wars, for all I know. Because men are deep inside looking for a way to be held and seen by the woman. When she sees him in great favor, he knows he's doing something right. So to get her recognition means that he's doing something right. This is not something you can take away. This is how it works. So when this life is dividing and separating everything, when women say, I hate men, and men become completely lost because they love women and they don't know what to do if they can't have them. So they may be hurting themselves by saying, I'm not going to love women anymore, hurting themselves even further. All this madness needs to end. But you also are the feminine, the masculine, within you. I am both man and woman. In my unconscious, subconscious, I am the woman. And I have to ask myself truly freely, what kind of thing I am reflecting. Am I reflecting my ego, or am I reflecting God? Because here, my head, my conscious me, is the man. It is here I decide what to do. So in order for me to decide what to do, I tend to turn inside and see how I feel about something. So my woman inside, my femininity inside, needs to be kind to me, needs to reflect what I really need to see, and needs to not be in fear or judge me or attack me. Because if it does, I should not listen. I should persist until I find kindness and love. And I should demand kindness and love, and not lies. So if I'm not met with this on the inside, it means that I'm afraid. And I can make myself unafraid by start loving again. Because I'm both man and woman. I'm responsible for both of these principles. And therefore in the old tales, you often see this brave knight protecting the innocent woman. So the woman is completely untouched, often dressed in white, like a princess, like a maiden, like a virgin. And he has to protect her pride or something like that. So she's not even touched by other men. He has to protect her and make her complete. They're like untouched, you know. And that is not about physical reality, even if it's often represented as men wanting to protect women, of course. But that saga is about something else. It always tells the story of you, always about you. And the woman in this case, the untouched woman, is your own truth. And here, your own decisions is the man in the saga. And you have to protect your own truth and stand up for your truth. Because if you don't, if you let it become touched and corrupted, you lose. If the woman is, what is it called? Abused or tainted or whatever, in the sense, means that your truth is not clear. You can't see clearly. If you become corrupt, if you can't stand up for your own truth, if you're weak and can't stand up for your own truth or don't dare to do it, we lose. So you kind of have to be that brave person towards yourself and stand up for your truth. Never lose sight of your own truth. So the sagas are great and the stories are great, and it also says something about our own interaction on the outside world as men and women, and how we act in this world when we are listening within, and what kind of relationship within we are looking for. As a self-conscious being, you are responsible for all of your responses and actions, no exceptions. The ego enables you to be self-conscious, but you decide what to do with it. And let's turn now to the outer world. I don't really mind talking about the outer world or your inner world. They're all the same. Your relationship to yourself, your relationship to other people, and your relationship to life. All the same relationship. But you will see now on the outer world, because we are at the end of a cycle, you will see this great division between light and darkness. In the 80s when I grew up, the cycle hadn't really appeared yet, so everything was grey. Good was mixed with evil. But now there's no longer so, is it? There's clearly a group who's woken up, and clearly a group who is asleep, as it's supposed to be. So the great transformation comes about via what I can only call in English the process of parting light from darkness. I'm trying to find a good word for it, but it is when it's no longer grey, but white and black. It separates. Light and darkness separates. So therefore we will see this anti-life from the outside, and we will see people waking up with greater and greater clarity. Aren't you amazed how your life has changed? What you realize now that you couldn't just see before? And you may think that life has turned evil now, but it's always been, I was going to say rotten, it's always been corrupt like this, but you didn't see it when you were self in it. But when you are coming to your senses, it looks really dark in contrast, and it's even easier to choose what feels right for you now. Which many people will recognize it's the natural. You're going back to the natural in all instances. So in a comparison chart, we can easily see this. We have light contra darkness, life against the anti-life, the natural and the unnatural. And you have to make a choice in this process. So on the outside, on the news, and the outside represents anti-life and darkness, right? They're gonna promote separation, separation, separation. And fear is separation. It's on the same spectrum. I often tell people this also, if they have physical pain, think away fear or think away separation. Either of these will take away the pain. So you go, what? Yeah. Because if you can actually pinch yourself and you can recognize this feeling as fear, you're going to feel it in your stomach as fear. If you overcome fear, you actually won't feel physical pain. Now it sounds weird, just try it. You can only try it. It's easier when you have a minor injury. When you are in a lot of pain, it's going to probably be a very hard exercise to do, but it is doable. But it's going to be tough, most probably. If you can think away separation, you can say things like, I have never been separated, which is actually accurate. I have never been separated, and I have never judged. I have never attacked. I'm innocent. And if you say this enough times, you're actually healing your head's idea about the separation, and you're coming together. And that's going to remove everything that pain, separation, and fear is connected to. So pain, fear, separation is the same. If you read fear, or if you read separation, or pain, if you so will, they're all going to go away. When you have a lot of pain, you're often going to feel separated and alone, more alone than you're not having pain. And you're also going to feel more fear than when you're not having pain, because it's on the same spectrum, it's the same thing. So if you can start feeling love in those moments, they're going to heal all these aspects at the same time. Amazing. And the news is trying to sink you or lower you down. And even on the outside, you're going to see things, a lot of unnatural things, even if in the arts or that they are creating unnatural foods, because it's also a way of going back from the natural. So unnatural is also a sign of anti-life. And of course, robots and technology. What can be more fitting than to replace life with actually non-life? So everyone will face a personal choice. You will get to choose the one or the other, light or darkness. Light wish to reconnect you back with yourself, which is the natural state of being, and are represented by forces that are benign to life. Darkness wish to separate you from yourself and are represented by forces that are against life. Everything unnatural and hostile to life, as we're watching. So, humanity is now in a choice. Either she unites with her own consciousness and becomes light and unity, or she remains separated from herself and stays in darkness and separation. So this is a typical picture of a person who is choosing the separation state. If you don't choose light, you will lose it. If you don't choose life and yourself, you're basically going to be afraid of life and yourself, because you're kind of attacking, and then you are afraid that someone will see you and get back at you, so you're kind of hiding now from light. The result will be more and more darkness. Like sometimes I give this easy example. You have a day at work and everything is going well at work. I mean, you're friendly with everyone and you just feel great, and you go home in peace. You go home in peace. For some reason you feel peace after that day. Or you have a day at work where it didn't go quite well. You ended up in a conflict with someone. You might have said something that you regret. You didn't feel really correct, and you defended yourself when you attacked the other person as well, said, I had a right to say that, whatever. And you go home and you have no peace. You are actually afraid. And you think that someone's going to find out, perhaps, that you did this argument. And you feel even more afraid, and you feel someone is out to get you. And this kind of sensation always happens when you judge another person. You become afraid. And you're assuming someone will attack you back, kind of like calling you up on your BS and saying, that was not nice. And yeah. So just be aware of that. How to take away fear is basically by making things right again and not judge or attack. Release. So in this case, people who are not waking up now, who are listening more and more, who becomes this, I guess I was going to say worm or insect that obeys your oppressor or your blockage, you will see more separation, more small-mindedness, more fear, more paranoia. And I actually held this like presentation in the 2020 when kind of all this was rolling out, and it was so visual what people were doing, because the news wanted us to be separated from each other, wanted us to be afraid of each other. And in Sweden they even said you can't sing, you can't dance, because it will spread the virus. And in the end it became madness, because all I saw was this division. They were looking for ways not to laugh, not to be happy, not to see each other, not to hug, just to be separated. And now in Sweden, as we see, the darkness, because the electricity prices have skyrocketed, so people here in Sweden are actually trying to keep warm with fires and are not turning on their lights, sort of. So yeah, we're seeing this world coming to manifestation in the outer world. So light belongs with light. So those who are waking up, they'll have understanding, cooperation, love, harmony, joy, comfort, laughter. Seeing more people that we like to hang out with, we come together, recreating communities. But darkness is afraid of light and can't face it. So there you'll see attack, fear, panic, excuses, oppression, force, mockery, closed, asleep. And censorship is all about, no, don't tell me. I don't want to hear, don't tell me. The only way to create conflict is to remove man from harmony. You have to take a human away from the full glass in order to create conflict. So when people are trying to get you out of the harmony state, when people want war, worries, agitation, no communication, fear, chaos, separation, attack, loneliness, enemies, doubts, ignorance, don't try to think logic about any of these feelings. If any of these things are arisen when someone wants you to judge another person, when someone wants you to attack another person, any of that stuff, say no. I won't, you can, but I won't. And don't put other people into these feelings as well. If you want to help, just ask, how was your day today? Do things that unite, but please don't do things that separate. The outer world will push the ego's buttons. In the end, now of a cycle, it will push you so that you can release what you're still holding on to. So be happy. It's a process of choice. But every time you feel comfort, safety, love and beauty, you come closer and closer to yourself, which is the same as life and all of reality. Only there will you find purpose, meaning and answers. Nowhere else. You can't find answers to a chaotic state. You have to leave the chaotic state that you are creating. That's the answer. And when I hold this presentation, I play this song from Moana. I don't think I'm gonna play it right here in the recording, because I assume that will make all the commercials go on. But I would encourage you to play this song, and I will probably put the link below the video so you can easily find it. It's such a good explanation of what all this is about. The story is about a paradisical land, an island. So they have two problems. They have to deal with the monster, and they have to find the key to make the whole place live again. And this little girl who is the hero, she suddenly gets it. Because they can't defeat this monster. They take the greatest warrior god who tries to defeat the monster, and they can't defeat the monster. Just like in Lord of the Rings. You can't defeat the bad guy with violence. She approaches this monster in this beautiful song, and she says, I know who you are. She holds this green emerald stone, which represents a heart actually. And the girl continues, I traveled so far to find you. And she gives the heart back to this creature. And she explains that they have stolen your heart away from you. At once they're reconnected back to their heart, and she helps this creature. Here, have back your heart. It transforms. The badness goes away, and arises is this beautiful creative being who was the heart of the land, who makes everything bloom again. So that was the solution. It was not two problems, it was one single problem. So if we can approach everyone out there, not as enemies, but if we can approach them by just helping them to reconnect back to themselves again, then we are heroes. And then we rescue ourselves and everyone else. And that's the answer. The answer is not to believe in bad guys. So, this is the only purpose in the mission. Return humanity back to themselves again. And we are all helping out with this. We are helping each other find ourselves again. We are working with ourselves to dispel that fog so that we can act truly as the people that we are. And yeah, that was all of the presentation. I hope this will be a great inspiration for you and that you can take it with you in your heart. And I see you soon again. Bye for now.